Good morning and welcome to the Thursday, November 9th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting. We begin our meetings with an invocation, and today Commissioner Gonzalez will lead us in that. Feel free to join if you would like.
Lord God and Father above, we thank you for all the great things you've done for us, life and just the blessings upon us. Ask for those blessings upon all those here today. We ask for wisdom in our community as well, and for all those that are suffering in our country and around the world. We ask for peace and around the world as well. And we ask for wisdom here as we make decisions, and ask that we make wise ones on behalf of our community. And we thank you for all the great things you do. In this we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items, and there are none.
Item number 4.
Item number 4 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm unaware of any changes or postponements to today's meeting, and our next meeting will be next Tuesday, November 14th at 9 a.m.
Item number 5.
Item number 5 is public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. This is the public's opportunity to speak on an item that is not scheduled on today's agenda. And Madam Chair, I did not have anyone sign in prior to the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience here to speak on any item not on the agenda today? Hearing none. And any online? None online. Before we move on to item number 6, I need a motion and vote to excuse Commissioner Vanderwerf.
So moved.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Commissioner Vanderwerf is excused with a vote of 4-0. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is the land use consent calendar consisting of items 6A and 6B.
Are there any questions or comments on the consent calendar from commissioners? Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on any item on the consent calendar? And none online. Okay.
Move approval of items 6A and 6B.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The consent calendar passes 4-0 with Commissioner Vanderwerf excused. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is the called up consent calendar, and there are no items called up.
Item number 8.
Item number 8, appeal of an executive determination to authorize litigation, 6725 Galley Road. An appeal by the property owner, Nathan A. Baird, of a decision made by the Executive Director of the Planning and Community Development Department, PCD, to issue an executive determination authorizing the Office of the County Attorney, OCA, to proceed with litigation for violations of Ordinance Number 18-02, prohibiting the accumulation of rubbish in Sections 5.2.2I, storage buildings as accessory uses, and 11.3.1, unlawful acts of the El Paso County Land Development Code. The 8,400 square foot property is zoned RS 5000 residential suburban and is located on the south side of Galley Road, east of Hathaway Drive. Parcel number 540-740-4009, Commissioner District Number 4, APPCE 232, Mindy Schultz, Strategic Services Manager, Planning and Community Development.
Morning, Commissioners. Terry Sample. I am here to tell you the procedural process. Staff will first present the item and provide testimony and evidence to support the PCD Executive Director's decision to issue an executive determination in this matter and why that was granted. The appellant shall then be given an opportunity to address the board and present any testimony and/or evidence. The board may then ask any final questions of staff or the appellant prior to rendering a decision. I just want to make sure if the appellant has made it online. know he was having some issues speaking with Ms. Pause for a minute for him to be able to access Teams.
Are we expecting him online? Okay. Let's,
Terry, can you also move over to the mic?
I apologize. Usually I'm a
That's
very
fine.
loud talker.
let's take a brief recess and see if we can't get the appellant online, because if we are unable to, then we need to consider a different, we need to consider what our next steps are here. Brief
Thank you.
recess. I will now call this Thursday, November 9th, meeting of the Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting back to order. We are on item number 8.
And Madam Chair, I'm just going to start from the beginning if that's okay.
Please do.
This is the request for appeal of executive determination. It's Mindy Scholes, Strategic Service Manager, Planning and Community Development, and Terry Sample, Senior Assistant County Attorney. Here is the slide if there's any public input. First, staff shall first present the item and provide testimony and evidence to support the PCD Executive Director's decision to issue an executive determination in this matter. The appellant shall then be given an opportunity to address the board and present any testimony and/or evidence. The board may then ask any final questions of staff or the appellant prior to rendering a decision. The board, in considering the testimony and evidence presented by both staff and the appellant, shall either move to deny the appeal, thus affirming the decision of the PCD director, or move to approve the appeal, thus overturning the decision of the PCD director. The request for an appeal. An appeal by the property owner, Nathan Baird, of a decision made by the Executive Director of the Planning and Community Development Department, PCD, to issue an executive determination authorizing the Office of the County Attorney to proceed with litigation for violations of Ordinance Number 18-02, prohibiting the accumulation of rubbish, and sections of 5.2.2 subsection 1, storage buildings as accessory uses, and 11.3.1, unlawful acts of the El Paso County Land Development Code. At this time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Schultz.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mindy Scholes, Planning Community Development. This property is located at 6725 Galley Road. It is zoned RS 5000. The lot size is 8,400 square feet and it's located in Commissioner District 4. We received 3 complaints on this property beginning in June 2022. The violation or the alleged violation was about inoperable vehicles, accumulation of rubbish, and a semi-trailer parked in the RS 5000. The notice of violation was issued on June 29th, 2022, and these are pictures of the property that resulted in the notice of violation being issued. Ordinance number 1802 is our prohibiting the accumulation of rubbish. I'm not going to read this out for you, but if you'd like me to, I can. So the property owner did clean up a portion of the rubbish. So the remaining rubbish is this commercial dishwasher here. So this picture, the top picture was taken in June 2022. The bottom picture was taken this week, November 6th, 2023, and that dishwasher is in the same place. So the definition of rubbish includes abandoned or junk equipment, used appliances, or any other object which has been discarded or abandoned. So this commercial dishwasher would fall under that definition of rubbish. Land Development Code is 5.2.2I, storage buildings as accessory uses. So this section of the code prohibits the use of semi-trailers or mobile homes as storage buildings after the effective date of this code, which is 2007, except in the A35 zoning district. So the property owner disagrees that he's in violation of this section of the code and has made a few statements. One, the semi-trailer is not a semi-trailer. The semi-trailer is a recreational vehicle, and the semi-trailer is not used as a storage building. So our code does not define a semi-trailer. So then it goes by the definition meaning of that word. So I did include a couple definitions of semi-trailer and included a picture of a generic semi-trailer for Google in addition to a picture of the semi-trailer located on his property. So the next statement he made was that it's a recreational vehicle. So on May 30th, 2023, he emailed me a link which provides requirements by the state to convert the semi-trailer into a recreational vehicle. One of the requirements is it has to have at least 4 of the required facilities, which he claims he has. We have not been able to do an inspection of the inside of the semi-trailer to confirm. But in addition, he needs these 3 bullet points documents in order to convert the semi-trailer into a recreational vehicle. And during a phone conversation I had with him, he stated he would have to hire somebody in order to transport the semi-trailer to get it weighed and to convert it and register it as a recreational vehicle. So that has not been done. He's also made statements that he doesn't use it as storage, but he has told me he uses it to go inside and play guitar. He has fencing material stored in there. And these are the pictures he provided of the inside of the semi-trailer. But the use of the semi-trailer as a storage building does not mean the semi-trailer has to be full of storage. You know, a shed garage is still a shed garage, even if it's empty. So this semi-trailer is being used as an accessory use as a storage building.
And I just wanted to add that these were supplied by the appellant. We have no way to verify where these pictures were taken or if they're from the inside of the trailer.
Thank you, Terry. So a case timeline and notice of violation was issued in June 2022. September 14th, 2022, we sent a courtesy letter. On May 5th of this year, the executive determination was issued. On May 15th, he requested an appeal, and today we have the appeal hearing. So we've given this property owner plenty of time to correct his violations. Additional information, the semi-trailer was previously used as a mobile command center for CSU. This does not mean that the trailer was converted to a recreational vehicle. It just means that it was used for utility purposes and not for transporting goods and materials. Staff requested inspection of the inside to verify the use of it. He denied it, expressed some concerns over privacy. So we asked to do an inspection without taking any pictures, and he also denied that request. We did tell him if he converts this into a recreational vehicle, then this section of the code would no longer apply and the violation would be cured with the exception of the rubbish. So this slide I want to bring back up because these are the pictures that led to Mrs. Harrington issuing the executive determination. These are the violations in each of the pictures that resulted in that determination being issued, and this is what's being appealed today. So rubbish continues to exist on the subject property, the commercial dishwasher. The semi-trailer is not used for commercial purposes. It's not being converted into a recreational vehicle, and it is being used as an accessory use storage building, which is not allowed in that zoning district. So staff recommends that the board deny the appeal and affirm the director's decision to issue the executive determination. Any questions for staff?
Any questions at this time for staff? Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the vehicles that currently still reside on the front of the property are not considered rubbish?
The vehicles?
The vehicles.
Correct. So the notice of violation did include an inoperable vehicle, but he repaired that by the time the executive determination was issued. So this does not include the vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you mentioned that the individual said that they would have to hire someone to move that vehicle and get it weighed and do all those things. Was there an assertion that he was in process of doing those things, or was that just a reason why he was not going to move forward? Just trying to understand if there's an effort being made here or not.
He just said he would have to hire someone to transport it and that cost, so he would not be doing that. But when this case first started, we were in the impression he was working to convert that into a recreational vehicle to eventually live in or travel in, and that hasn't happened up until now.
Okay. And then on the commercial dishwasher, has there been any reason given why that is sitting there, or if there is a plan? I'm just trying to get at, is there effort being made to move this along or not?
He did make comments he was going to sell it. He said he had to repair the utility trailer underneath, And then he just argued that it wasn't rubbish.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for staff? Okay.
I'll turn it over to the property owner, Mr. Baird.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Sorry, so one more question. So if the commercial washer was put in the backyard, would that fix the violation?
If code enforcement couldn't verify it was there, it would fix the rubbish violation, but our rubbish ordinance doesn't say if it's in the backyard, it's okay. So if a neighbor could still view that
Compliance,
from
okay.
their porch, it'd still be a violation.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Gardner.
Do you have, obviously you may not have, but when was this reported? How long ago was that? So again, taking this at face value that this was, this individual is trying to repair something and sell it. How long has that taken? Has there been any indication of how long that would take?
So the case was open in June 2022, and that commercial dishwasher was in the same location. I haven't seen any change in any of the pictures that we've taken over the past year and a half to indicate anything's changed.
Okay, so more than a year, and the individual has not, to your knowledge, indicated how long that was going to take or any plan to move it.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'd love to hear from the appellant at this time. Can we confirm we have them online? Excellent. Thank you. I'm assuming, is this Mr. Baird? Are you there? Let's try this again. Mr. Baird, are you able to hear us? Once again, I think we're going to take a brief recess to work through this.
Test, test. Okay, Teams is working.
Hello.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Whoa. Okay, I just can't. Well, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to hear you guys over my phone. Maybe I had to mute my computer because I'm just getting like a feedback through my phone and that. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right, I just took it off speakerphone. It's weird because I could hear myself.
Alrighty, test 1,
Unknown
2.
participant
Check.
is now joining.
Can you hear me through my personal? Test 1, 2. Alright, so go down to the track. Got me? Do you hear him? Test 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Does,
Yes.
yeah?
Yes.
Unknown participant is now exiting. Unknown participant is now exiting. Unknown participant is now joining.
Hello. Hello.
So I can hear you, sir, but I'm actually in a different room. So let me run in and see if they're able to hear you on the same length.
Mr. Baird, can
Okay,
you
thank
hear
you.
us?
Yeah, I can.
Okay,
Who's
you are
talking
now
now?
Yes, we can now hear you. My apologies for the technical problem, but we have it resolved. So,
Okay.
we are currently in a break, so as soon as the commission chair starts the meeting again, I believe you'll be called up. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I will call this Thursday, November 9th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners for a land use meeting back to order. We are on item number 8. We have just heard the staff presentation, and as a matter of record, I just want to assure that our appellant, Mr. Baird, was able to hear that portion, even though we couldn't hear him. Is that true, Mr. Baird?
You mean her first presentation?
Yes. Were you able
Yeah.
to hear the staff portion of the presentation?
Yeah, I did.
Excellent. Well, at this point, we would like to hear from you, and you may present anything you have that you'd like for us to hear at this point.
Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be a little awkward and difficult to do this because I can't use Teams to present my documents. I did send Mindy some stuff over as kind of a backup. But okay, so well, let me just start from the very end from what she was talking about with my with the Hobart unit that I have out there. So she said that I didn't give any kind of timeline for them or anything like that, or that it's been there a year and I haven't done anything. Well, so on my property, when the first complaint came through about they thought I was running a vehicle repair shop, which wasn't true, but they came out and they just kind of fished around. They found a ton of different violations, and the only reason actually that complaint was there was I had a back injury and I just had a surgery on my back, and that was in April, and so my property got frozen in time from there, and so about 3 months after that is when I think the complaint came in. So I got my procedure in April, or 2 months later, I think she said it was June. And this procedure I have, it takes a year to recover from it fully. And after 3 months, you're allowed to do like light lifting, stuff like that. And I explained this to them, and that it would take quite a while to get everything on the property because a lot of the stuff they were saying was rubbish, wasn't actually rubbish. Like I had some powder coated steel beams out there, and to make those beams is quite expensive. It's at least 50,000 for all of those. And some of those beams were being used on a project here that was under 200 square feet, and the rest were going to be going to a new property that I was trying to get some land, and it was going to be used to build out there. And there is in the land development code, there is an allowance for building materials and you're allowed to keep them for 3 months after the project is finished. And there's no timeline for a project that doesn't require a permit. There hasn't been anything coded saying how long you have to do something like that. And so that dishwasher, she's trying to say it's an appliance. If you actually look up the definition of appliance, and I'm using the Collins Dictionary, and I've looked at a lot of them, but there's a connotation of like a household use for that. And I could see why that might be in rubbish, because I mean, usually household appliances like, toasters, microwaves, or household ovens, range tops, stuff like that, they wouldn't have a whole lot of value if after they were used. And they would, I mean, they could be considered rubbish. I mean, it's a British word, but that just means like worthless items, trash, that type of thing. So she's trying to lump my commercial machine into worthless appliances. But I just looked up this the unit I have out there, which I got at auction, and well, to buy it new is $93,000, and for used, the lowest price I could find, and I wish I could share my screen with you guys, but the lowest price was something like $14,000 or $20,000, depending on. I mean, there are just a couple listings out there, and so I don't think that it is rubbish. That's why I disagree with that. And there has been progress made on it. Last December, because I mentioned that I had my back procedure, but I was still making progress even with my restrictions. But there were like lifting restrictions. It was pretty difficult, like something that might take me like a couple days not being injured. It takes me several months because I have to use leverage. I have to lift the stuff onto like some PVC, try rolling it. I mean, it's kind of like I'm building the Egyptian pyramids or something. I've got to use like this pulleys, stuff like that. For stuff that I normally would just be able to lift up and move. And so it's been extremely difficult to do that. I did, I was out of work, and that's why I was doing this auction stuff, and that was because of my back injury. And I got in so much debt that I hadn't been able to work for a couple of years, like a regular job. And so that's why I was trying to find like ways that I can make some money. But anyway, I did end up going back to work because right when I was after my surgery, I could barely stand up or sit down. But after I kind of recovered for a few months, I had to get back to work so that I could pay my bills. And so I ended up going to CDL school, and I took out a $5,000 loan to go to that, and then I got my CDL, and I started driving, but I was only back for once a week. I only had one day to be back, and every day that I was back for that whole year, I mean, I was really tired and not fully recovered from my injury still, but I still went out, and I've been working on the stuff to the best of my ability. And I always was keeping the code enforcement officer, Gayla, I was telling her what was going on, and she said she was pleased with my progress. And then, well, at CDL school, I had a hand injury, and that was aggravated again in December. And then about a couple weeks after it was aggravated, I was out driving in a blizzard. I delivered groceries for Safeway and Albertsons, and it was right before Christmas. I was doing loads during the holidays, and but I was coming out of my semi-trailer, and I lost grip on my hand, and I fell about probably my feet were about maybe 5 feet up or so, and then what I ended up falling on my hip, that's another probably 3 feet up. because I'm about 6 feet tall. But and I weigh about 200 pounds, so I fell out of my semi. I slipped. I didn't have a good grip on my one hand because I slipped on ice during this blizzard in Denver. I fell down onto the concrete. I was slated to go home that night, and the snow was piling up, and I was panicked and that's kind of why I was coming out of my tractor a little fast. But anyway, I had this major injury to my SI joint, piriformis syndrome, my foot. They think it might be a stress fracture in it, but and also the re-injury to the surgery I had were on two of my discs. I had 2 cracked discs and degenerated disc in my back. So all of this stuff was it was just too much. I couldn't work on it, but I emailed Gala about it, and but the work restrictions, they were only letting me lift 20 pounds, and I wasn't allowed to really sit or stand for hardly any period of time. And so when well, there was about a month where I couldn't really work on anything, and I told Gala about this, and then the same day, the county attorney, she sent me this really threatening letter saying that I hadn't corrected the violations. They hadn't given any extension of time, which is true. I asked for an extension of time, but they never granted it. I mean, but you're probably wondering, well, how could it be going on this long without an extension of time? I mean, they said as long as you're showing some progress, we can extend you. They said we can't let you go indefinitely, but we're not gonna take it to the next level as long as you're showing progress. But I couldn't make any. I mean, I just wasn't physically able to make progress for that month, and then so they sent me this letter threatening to send the sheriff out to go and look at the rest of my property and seize property. And one thing that they tell you to do is put stuff in your backyard. And so basically they say, okay, you can't have this, put it in the back. But then they go and say, well, like, we have this thing on you. We know you put that stuff in the back, and now we're going to send the sheriff out to your house to go find that stuff that we told you to put in the back. And I wish I had this link here, but if you look, Minnie Madden, she has a new last name now, but if you look her up with the Gazette, you could see that this is what they do. They tell you to put stuff in the backyard, but then the county attorney will send a letter saying that they're going to go in your backyard and seize property, and they're basically threatening to seize my rubbish, and that they could go and sell it at auction if I don't pick it up. So I don't know, to me it seems a little coercive, but I was still trying to make progress even after they did that. It's a little hard to plan stuff out really well when you're under the gun like that, but I still made progress on everything. The dishwasher, that's the last thing remaining now. I mean, as far as what they called all the rubbish, but I think that those should have been okay under building materials if they would have just let me work on the stuff that was, I mean, there wasn't really, if you look at what the definition is, their definition of rubbish, there was some stuff out there, but I took care of everything. And this, I've been working on, there's a lot of line buildup on it, and you can't really see from the external pictures. I do have new pictures, and I sent them to Mindy. She could show you them. She should have them. If I could share my screen, I'd show them to you. I even put a construction fence around it, just in case. If you look at 1802, there's a reason for that statue, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull it up so I can read it to you guys. But the reason is to promote the public health and welfare and to promotion of health, suppression of disease. And so I guess my question is, how does my very expensive machine out there, how does that have any negative effect on anyone's health? How does it spreading disease? And I think I already mentioned about how, like, the word rubbish, it has a connotation to it that it's something that's worthless. And some appliances might fall under that, but I don't think that a commercial industrial appliance would. Has not been abandoned. I've been working on it. It has changed. Some of it's internal, so you won't be able to see it with air pictures. But well, anyway, I did put a fence around it, and there is another part in the code that allows you to. The reason I put that fence is you guys have another code that says we're not allowed to work on our vehicles outside, basically, unless it's in an enclosed structure. And so it's illegal for me to fix the trailer that's underneath it right now, unless it's in an enclosed structure. And I put a fence around it so that it's in an enclosed structure. In that same section, it says that you can work on machines in an enclosed structure. And so I did put that around it just in case there's any safety concern. I don't know how anyone would hurt themselves on it. I mean, you can't really miss it. It's not something. I did put construction stanchions and fencing around it just to warn people while I get that done. And what I wanted to do with that was, I mean, I'd like to fix it up. I have to check the circuit board, stuff like that. But I mean, I prefer to donate it next year to like a charity that could feed homeless people, something like that. I know I wouldn't really make much money, but it might be a tax write-off or something. But I mean, I'd like it to be used to help people. If you guys won't let me do that, then I mean, I will just list it and just sell it and be done with it. So that's pretty much my argument for the, yeah, for that, the Hobart unit. And okay, and then the semi. No, sorry, guys. Now let me talk about the semi-trailer. So the semi-trailer, I did get that from auction also. It was from the CSU Radar Lab. And it had been converted for human habitation because they work in there. It was made out of a reefer trailer, which has excellent.
Did we just lose audio? Mr. Baird?
Yeah, I could hear you guys.
Okay.
Hello?
Can you just, yes, we can hear you. Can you just repeat that last sentence for me?
Okay, yeah, I bought this trailer from the Radar Lab up at CSU, and it was made of it's built on the platform of a reefer trailer, and in the 90s, they added about 2 inches of EPS foam to make extra insulation. I have a statement of fact, and I sent it to Mindy. If she could pull that up, and you guys could see what all's been done to it. It's quite a lot. It's been converted to a living area, habitable area. There are 2 sections on the trailer. The front part, everything's all carpeted, the walls, the floor. And the back is linoleum tile on the floor, so like you could it could get wet and that type of thing. And we're planning on converting that section into a bathroom area. But right now it qualifies as a multi-purpose trailer. I contacted the DMV here. Mindy was, well, everybody, like the code enforcement officer we had first, Gayla, she said she's going to have it listed as a residence and not to worry about it. And so we didn't even know that was on the agenda still until it got sent over to the county attorney, and Mindy was looking at it, and then that part was revived then. And Mindy was telling me that it needed to be titled as a recreational vehicle. And so when I first brought the trailer, I brought the title down to the DMV. I didn't know about like sub-classifications of trailers for registration, stuff like that. But on titles, there is no sub-classification. So if you have a semi-trailer, it's a trailer. If you have a camper trailer, it's a trailer. I mean, anything that's a trailer is just a trailer as far as the title goes. And so I thought I was okay with that. But then Mindy said it wasn't good. She was looking to see if it was titled as a mobile home. Because if it was, she had like some other people that she was able to get their mobile homes torn down because they're mobile homes. And but it wasn't a mobile home. But then she said that it still doesn't help me. I did send her pictures because she did mention there are 6 criteria, and I meet four of them, and that's the minimum required to turn a vehicle into a motor home. So like a school bus into a motor home, that's a pretty common one. They don't have anything about trailers being converted, but they do have a way to register, and most of the people at the DMV, they don't know this information. When I went to go get my my trailer registered, what they were supposed to have me go get a weight slip, but they didn't do that. They didn't know about it. I didn't know about it, but I kind of rely on them to give me the correct information. But because they didn't tell me to go and get a weight slip, if they would have said I needed a weight slip, that would have been really easy. On the way down, when it was getting delivered here, I could have just got a weight slip on the way back. It wouldn't have been any extra cost to me or anything. And so, and then I could have easily just went and got everything done. But I mean, by this time of year, I was hoping that I'd have my land and that I'd have my own tractor trailer by now too. And I would have if I didn't have that second injury. But now I'm on half pay, and it's really hard to just get my bills paid and the debt that I accumulated for a couple years. So I would have to pay someone at this point because of my injury right now. I'd have to pay someone to take it over to get the weight slip. I'd have to pay to take it over to get a VIN verification and pay to go. And if the VIN verification doesn't work out, it might have to be taken to the state patrol because it is an old trailer. I don't really know where the VIN is on it. I haven't been able to find it. So it might have to go through that route too. And I just found this information out from the DMV a little bit ago. They have sub classifications for trailers. And Mindy, I don't think she knew about it either because she had to contact the county attorney to see about it. But I don't even think the county attorney knew about all these sub classifications because I never heard about it until I had to talk to several people at the DMV just to get this information on, I guess they put a recreational vehicle to subclassification. And under my trailer right now, it's a multi-purpose trailer right now. And that means that it's used for residential purposes. It's like a big camper trailer with a section where you can put your ATV in it. And so that's what they're saying it is right now. We are converting that rear area into a bathroom. So at that point, it would be considered a trailer coach. And that's just the same thing. It's just a really big camper. And there's kind of been a trend now. People are converting their like old semi-trailers into campers. And well, I guess they'd be called trailer coaches in Colorado. So many said that I'm saying that a semi-trailer isn't a semi-trailer, which, I mean, it sounds ridiculous because that's not actually what I said. What I said was the Colorado Revised Statutes, they have a definition for what a semi-trailer is. And because the county doesn't have their own definition of what a semi-trailer is, I'm guessing you go to what Colorado State, what their definition is. And one second, I'm trying to pull it up so I can tell you guys, but it basically it says that a semi-trailer is commonly used to carry cargo or freight on the highways and pulled by a tractor. I'm just kind of going off of memory right now. So with this trailer, you cannot put pellets in it. That's the common cargo and freight that's carried in the trucking industry for a drive and or a reefer trailer. But this one, it has a dividing wall installed and all that extra insulation, and it's finished. So if you put pellets in it, it's going to destroy that stuff. You won't be able, and the floor is raised too because of the heating ventilation system. So you'd have to have a special ramp from a loading dock to get a forklift in there, and then the forklift would break your floor too because that floor isn't meant to support weight. It's just there for like for ventilation, heating, and insulation. So it can't carry the common freight that's on our highways. And in the industry, we normally it's pallets. Sometimes it's big items or something you could put in a semi-trailer, but this can't take any of that stuff, and that's why it's not really a semi-trailer. It used to be one in the 80s, but I don't think I guess you could say it looks like one from the outside, but it's been fully converted already. And I sent pictures to Mindy that she showed you guys, and then I don't know who was talking after that, but they said there wasn't any proof that's from that trailer. But the thing is, Mindy told that to me, and then I sent her another picture that was a view from the outside of the trailer looking in, and it showed the kitchenette because you could see it from the outside. And I sent that to her because she didn't believe me that it actually came from my trailer. And so, but that should have cleared it up right there. But then code enforcement, they just kind of wanted to invite themselves over, my home and inspect everything. And I mean, when I grew up, I was, taught that we have like fundamental rights to privacy in America, and that like we shouldn't just let people into our homes just because they want to come inspect it or something. And so that was my reservation about it. I, so let me think what else here. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired because I have problems sleeping with this injury. I'm in pain all the time, and so it takes me a long time to get to sleep, and I probably only got like a couple hours. But so I don't know if I'm missing anything, but yeah, I can't really think of what else I might want to say about it. So I'll just let you guys ask me questions if you want, or whatever's next.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Baird. I do want to, before we bring it up here for some questions, I do want to ask our AV team. I think that we've seen all the slides that are a part of this presentation, but can we, right now we're on the statement of fact sheet. We've seen that a few times. Same document, I think. I don't think we saw all the slides in that. I just want to make sure we've seen them all. And then anything else that he sent over that we can see real quick. Okay, thank you. And Mr. Baird, can you see on the screen what they're showing us right now?
No, I got kicked out of the meeting online, so, and I'm on the phone right now, so I haven't been able to see anything. I have no visual whatsoever.
Okay, we're taking a look at all the photos that you submitted. I think we've got 2 more here.
And Mindy should have the one where there's a view from the outside of the trailer going in. She definitely has that one, and she could show that to you guys.
I believe at this point we have seen them all. Okay, are there any questions for the applicant or the appellant? Commissioner Williams.
This is Commissioner Williams. I do have one question or 2 questions. The first question is the statement of fact on your trailer is dated today. So you have not yet found a way to get the DMV to title your trailer?
Well, what I did, I saw Minnie's presentation, and she said it needs GR 4444 for that, and that reminded me to I need to do that statement of fact. There is a way to do it. I have to get a VIN verification and then a weight slip, and so I would have to find someone. And in the freight industry, it's I mean, they're pretty busy, and to get them to come out, unless you have like a few months notice, it's pretty expensive. It could be like $1,000 just to get them to come pick it up and take it over somewhere, and depending on how long they have to wait and that type of thing. But yeah, if I have to get an emergency record, then it would cost quite a lot of money. And but I did call them, and they said it would, based on what's in that. I didn't send that statement of fact over. I just verbally communicated not all of that information. That's a little more detailed, but yeah, that's how they told me that it would be a multi-purpose trailer at this point.
And one more question, the commercial freezer, do those doors on the front that I'm looking at just open up?
The dishwasher.
The dishwasher.
Yeah, it's a it's a warewasher. Yeah, they will. They open up.
And is there any way for a child to crawl in there and shut the door?
No, because well, if a child did crawl into it, they could not get trapped in there because it's completely open from both sides of it. If you open it, it just gives another access point. So, yeah, if a child were to, get through all the construction barrier now and at most they'd be able to climb through the top of it. But they couldn't get trapped in there. I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions for the appellant right now? I have one for you. This is Commissioner Brimmer. So you have very graciously shared some of your medical difficulties that have made it difficult to come into compliance on this property. Can you give us a reasonable estimate of the amount of time? I know that's not the only resource needed, but the amount of time it might take you to reasonably come into compliance on these items.
Well, I believe I'm in compliance, but if you guys would, if you find against my appeal, depending on which item it is, let's see, the Hobart unit, I think, is the last thing for the rubbish they're talking about. So, and I don't know if you guys can make a split finding for one, not the other, or how you guys would do it. But for that one, the main thing stopping me from that is my back and my SI joint injury. If you guys didn't allow me to repair it, then I mean I could just list it and try to like fire sale it or something. I'd be losing a lot of money on that way. But if I had more time, probably next year, if I donated it at that time, then I could get the write-off for my taxes. In a year where I actually made money, this year it wouldn't benefit me, so I would have to just list it, and so it would just be how much time it would take someone to buy it without me fixing it. And so I mean that could, I don't know how long that would take, maybe a couple months or something. For the semi-trailer, what I'd like to do is drive over myself to get like all the stuff done with the paperwork. I still don't quite understand the argument about that it has to be registered as something for it not to be used as a storage building, because they have it written in their executive determination that it's being used as a storage building, but like I think she mentioned garage or shed, and but I'd like to know, I mean, what garage or shed has carpeting in it and has electricity, is climate controlled? What kind of storage building has all of that stuff? What kind of storage building can you live in? And I don't think you're allowed to live in a shed or anything like that. So, or a garage. I mean, what garage or shed has a kitchenette in it? If you try to use this as a storage building, you're going to damage it. So, and another thing I forgot to mention, I mean, that's where I go to get away from things like noise, household noises. She did mention, I mean, one thing I do is play guitar. I play other instruments like violin and clarinet too in there. And I go in there when I need to be able to focus, like if I'm programming or doing any kind of technical work, because I just get distracted too much in the house. So, I mean, that's kind of my go-to place. It's like a sanctuary in there with the soundproofing and everything. But with that, yeah, I don't know about the time frame because they haven't given me a date when they think I'm going to be healed from this injury. I thought that I would have already been healed by now, but the doctor can't give me a time frame for when I'm going to get healed from it. And so I don't know what time frame it would take for the semi-trailer. It might take a few months if I could, I mean, I have to go into some debt to get someone to take it. It'd be very costly. And all that would change is just what it's registered as. It wouldn't change what it actually is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
Are there any other questions for the appellant? Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I understand, in conversations both to staff and to you that you've made comments about, moving things to the back, and we've acknowledged that, it's about kind of what we can see and enforce and those type of things. But I am curious to ask if you are still hoping to work on this, or, as you said, end up donating it or whatever, are you open to moving it to the back of your property? I think, to be honest with my fellow commissioners here, we've all heard the saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And certainly, I think that a case has been made that that this is not trash, that it still has purpose, and it just happens to be sitting there. But it is obvious that to someone in your community that this is troubling. I think it is more of a visual preference, which I'm looking at our planning director because she knows exactly what I'm thinking over here. I've often said I can't stand when my neighbors put out gnomes. I don't like gnomes, but I don't get to make that decision about their property. Now, this is definitely different than a gnome, but at the same point, to me, at this point, I think a case could be made that this is more of a visual concern, and I just wonder if you would be willing to consider moving it to the back of your property, because I wonder if that would be a neighborly thing to do beyond anything else. Is that something that you would consider and be able to do?
Well, I would be willing to do it if I was able. The thing is, it's 600 pounds, and to move it, I mean, it would, especially in my condition now, I have a problem standing up for some period of time. I can't really do a lot of force too. I'm limited to, I think she got me to 30 pounds. So it is on a tilt trailer. So if I use pulleys, stuff like that, with force multipliers, I mean, I'd have to go let's see, 300, 150, 75. I'd have to do like 4 levels of pulleys to get it down, and then I'd have to make another pulley contraption system. I'd have to get it on wheels, and then another contraption system to get it to the back. I mean, it'd be really involved to do that.
So
with
can
my
I-
injury, yeah.
No, and I understand, and I'm sympathetic to the fact that you have an injury, and that is a factor here. But I'm going to ask on willingness. If there were some help or there was something, are you willing, even if that is, again, I can't commit that someone's going to help you on it, but I'm just wondering, is there a willingness if there is a way around your injury concern right now?
Yeah, if my injury wasn't a factor, I'd be completely willing to move it behind my fence, on my, in the side of my house or something like that. And I think there'd be room to work on it there, because it's not really wide unit. So I would be able to finish the work if it was out there, and I'd be willing to do that. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. And then on the trailer, it sounds like you mentioned something about moving it to a different property, or on the case of it being a recreational vehicle, are you planning to move it to another property, or are you planning to use it as a recreational vehicle in the future?
Well, it's a bit of both. I was planning to already have my land by now, but because of my injury, couldn't quite do it. But I want it to be on my new property. I don't really want to keep it here forever. I mean, I'd like to get some of the stuff changed here. Like I'd like to get the bathroom all installed and um, all the extra stuff to make it a trailer coach. And it'd be really difficult to do that if I had to like move it, pay someone to store it somewhere. Then, I mean, especially with my injury, it's a lot easier for me to go in there and work on it. And I'd be really sad if I had to get rid of it because I mean, that's where I have like my music stuff and my computers where I can it's just kind of my sanctuary. I do have, I don't know, I've been diagnosed with autism, so it's kind of like my sensory, when I get like sensory overload in the house from like pets and from girlfriend, from noise and or cooking smells, stuff like that. I really like going out there. I mean, basically to me, it's my home just as much as my house is my home. But I would, after it is on our new property, because we do have I don't really want to get into it because there's kind of sensitive information. But when it is on the new property, what my hope is, because I was in bands before and a musician, so I'd like to be able to travel with it and take it to gigs and that type of thing to go tour around.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Williams.
Does the commercial dishwasher work? And have you attempted to contact a place to see if they would accept it if you donate it?
I haven't found a charity yet that will be able to use it. Actually, I haven't called around yet for that. And I'm not sure if it does work. I don't have 3-phase power at my house. I'm trying to order the right inverter that has the correct amperage and make sure that I can test it here. I was mainly going to go on the lower voltage side where it has the like the actual controller and the relays, everything like that, without having the motors connected, because those will draw a lot of amps, and I don't think my house would be able to support how many amps it takes, like to drive all the motors and heaters in it, everything else. But I haven't been able to test it since I bought it, but I want to get all those points tested, and then I mean, either way it goes, if I'm going to donate it somewhere, I mean, obviously they need to have a facility that has the 3-phase 600 volt power that and can support like 70 or 80 amps.
Thank you.
Any further questions of the appellant? Okay, thank you, Mr. Baird. At this point, I will ask if there are any members of the public wishing to speak on this item. None online and nothing submitted since the email address was presented in the beginning, correct? Okay. With that, I have 2 questions of staff, both closely related and both regarding the trailer. In that RS 5000 zoning, I believe, what are the requirements and rules around recreational vehicle storage or semi-storage?
You can have recreational vehicles. There's no storage standards. So if that was a recreational vehicle, he could have it parked there. So for semi-trailers, you can't have a semi-trailer as an accessory use storage building in that zone district. So as it is, that is a semi-trailer. He's using it for other purposes, which is an accessory use, which is prohibited in that zone district.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
So clarifying, so is the prohibited use that it is a semi-trailer in the parking or driveway?
Correct, on the property, yes.
Okay, so the fact, not that it's even used for something else. The fact that it's a semi-trailer in the driveway is not legal use.
That's correct.
Okay, there was a statement that he said it's a multi-purpose trailer. What's the difference, and does that change whether it's legally there or not?
It doesn't, because it's still a semi-trailer. He's classifying it as other things, and the reason why the appeal happened months after he requested it is I was trying to work with him, requesting an inspection so we could, try to verify some of the things he was saying and kind of meet in the middle. And that's where we're hitting those disagreements, which is why we moved forward. But it's a semi-trailer. He's just classifying it as something else that I've been able to prove.
Well, okay, so even if it's a multi-purpose trailer, it's still illegally there under our
Correct.
code.
It's-
Okay, so the only way it's legally there is if it's classified as an RV and legally not licensed, registered that way,
Correct, because then we would classify as recreational vehicle.
and then it would be legal. So
Correct.
what needs to happen, it sounds like, is this needs to be classified RV, and it is not yet done so because of the legal process.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt here, but there is actually more to it than that. There is no recreational vehicle classification. There are, I'm sorry, I need to pull up a document really quick because I have my notes. One second. All right, one second. I need to go to my other computer. I didn't get that file transferred over. There is no sub-classification that's called recreational vehicle. The sub-classification, there's a camper trailer. There's a multi-purpose trailer is a large camper trailer with the area in the back, like to hold your RV. So to hold your ATVs and that type of thing. And okay, actually I just got the document up, so this should go a little better. So for an RV, there's the county does define what an RV is, and they say that it's something like a camper trailer, travel trailer, that type of thing. And they do make such trailers on semi-platforms. They're very expensive, but they are made. And Mindy said that one of those would be allowed. So for trailers, the subcategories they have are camper trailer, coach trailer, multi-purpose trailer, just trailer, that's what it is right now, and utility trailer. There is no RV classification, so if you want to follow that logic that it's not an RV, well, that would mean a camper trailer wouldn't be a recreational vehicle either, because that's, because they're not classified as recreational vehicles. But in the actual land development code, it says or similar, like a camper trailer or similar. So having it a multi-purpose trailer, it has living quarters and it has storage area. And what it will become after I can do the work on it is going to be a coach trailer, which is just a large camper trailer. And I believe that those are similar to what the county themselves define a recreational vehicle. And again, they're saying that I'm using it as a storage building. And when I talked to Mindy about it, she said that's just like a really broad definition. And because you could call any building a storage building because buildings hold things. And so, but I mean, if you want to take it to an extreme definition like that, but this is not The only thing that's in there that's being stored is stuff that came with the trailer when it came down, and that's the steel decking in there. And that only takes up a 8x4 area, 32 square feet out of about 400 square feet. And that's out in the closet. And I think in an RV, you should be allowed to store something in there. But anyway, that's all I had. Go ahead.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez, did that
Well, it would be back from
Finish
staff again. So,
answering your question?
so when he references it being it would become a coach trailer. Is a coach trailer a type of RV or a type still of semi that is illegally parked there? Or would it be a coach trailer but only once registered and received approvals from the state?
Correct.
Still needs their approvals from the state. So the still here, the thing that it sounds like is whether it's a coach trailer or an RV, it needs to be classified that by the appropriate registration.
Correct. So in the conversation with Nathan, he calls a recreational vehicle, but admits there's steps he has to do to convert it to a recreational vehicle. So this is one of the reasons why we moved forward to bring this before the board, because we could not find an agreement, his interpretation versus staff's.
If,
Commissioner Geithner?
thank you. If this were the kind of trailer that's pulled by a fifth wheel that is typically purchased as a recreational vehicle and it were parked there, would that be allowable?
It would, yes.
So the difference here, and I'm going to get to the why a little bit on this, of what the difference is here, what we are actually trying to prevent in these two, because this is really coming down to a lot of semantics in my mind. So what are we trying to prevent with a semi-trailer prohibition that is different than a camping recreational trailer? What are we trying to prevent there?
So semi-trailer is a pretty large thing on these smaller zone districts. This section of the code says you can't have them as a storage building. So this thing's not coming and going as it would for a recreational vehicle. It has the commercial use appearance of it. And again, I'm speculating because I wasn't here in 2007 when this was put in the code. But we do get a lot of complaints on these, and it's because they're a commercial looking trailer parked on these smaller lots, and they don't go. So
it's uglier than the standard camping trailer you'd purchase is the essential, or is there something else from a safety standpoint?
Good afternoon. Well, good morning, Commissioners. Megan Harrington, Planning Director. It's parked in a driveway, and so I think the intent, if it's parked in a driveway, is that it is a vehicle and it is movable, and this is not a movable vehicle. While it may be somewhat on wheels, we haven't really been able to prove that it is a vehicle to be parked in the driveway, recreational vehicle or otherwise. And so that's kind of where we're drawing the difference. And the property owner does disagree with us, but we're looking at it from the perspective of it's parked in a driveway. Is it movable? No. And is it a vehicle to be parked in the driveway? In the interpretation of code, yes, that is the difference where we are disagreeing.
When you say it's not movable, can you help me understand? It's on wheels, so because it doesn't have a truck attached, is that what you mean?
Well, a movable vehicle per the code, and Mindy can help me, is a licensed vehicle or tow behind or something that can be hooked up and driven on the road is a vehicle. It can't be, it's not plated, it's not licensed, it could not be driven on the road. This cannot be, in its current state, it cannot be driven on the road legally because it's not plated, it is not a registered vehicle.
So those, and I understand there may be other things, but at least because it's not plated and registered, it's not plated or registered as a trailer either that we're aware of?
This is where we
Sorry.
disagree. No, I don't believe that it is. We haven't been able to prove that it is a registered trailer, that it is registered and licensed, that you could pull it out of your driveway and legally drive it down the road. No, we don't have proof of that, correct?
And I could get proof of that today if you need it. That has a license on it, and it does need to be renewed, like the sticker right now. And the only reason I've been holding off on that is because I was trying to get this VIN verification, so when I go and register it, I don't have to go and re-register it. But I can get that registered today if that's the issue, and then that would be taken care of.
Commissioners, we have been working with this gentleman for a year. We have asked for this proof. We have specifically said, and I know in the last several months since I've been here, if you can plate it and register it to be driven, then to be towed as a recreational vehicle, camper trailer or otherwise, then it falls under that RV from the code, and it would be not considered anymore. It would not be considered a storage building as an accessory use. What we need, and we have explained this, is proof that it is a licensed, registered recreational vehicle that can be towed down the road legally. And if he comes up with that information for this, then yes, we would not be here today.
Okay, so one more clarifying question. So if he gets it licensed as just a semi-trailer, is it, what makes that illegal here? So a semi-trailer cannot be parked there.
Right, the semi-trailer still would not be allowed.
Okay, thank you.
For any amount of time?
I don't think our code allows for semi-trailers in neighborhoods.
It doesn't unless you're R5 or A35, but, you know, a trucker that comes from the weekend and leaves, we typically wouldn't be getting those complaints. This is stored there, which is what generated those complaints.
Thank you.
I know we're speaking with staff again. I do have one more question for Mr. Baird, but it's just a short one. I don't need a long answer. And may I ask that? Please. Mr. Baird, do you own this property that you that you want to someday move this trailer to? You mentioned that you keep wanting to buy land and move the trailer onto the land. Do you own that land, or have you purchased that land yet?
No, I don't have it yet. That was something that I was hoping to have by now, but we definitely do have to move. There's for safety, and I asked if I could. I know you don't want a long answer, but I could give you guys. I wouldn't want it open to the public, but you guys could see what it is, and it is a life-threatening situation. But I just don't want to make it public record.
And I know that right now you're disabled and only working half-time. Do you or your family member, your girlfriend, have the ability to store the trailer, in other words, pay to store it on a storage facility lot?
Well, I'm not working half-time. I'm on workers' comp right now, but and my girlfriend, she does not work. She's disabled. I have to, she wouldn't have any ability to do that.
Okay,
right
that's
now.
that's all I need to know for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask the specific question because I'm just not aware of this, but it's a bit convoluted to me. If this were, again, a camper that you go and purchase, and it's a trailer, what would that be titled under, or what would that, what kind of plate would that be? What kind of registration would that be under the DMV?
I'm not sure.
Sorry, I thought that was for me.
I still believe it would say trailer. I don't, I've asked to see his registration to see if it listed as something different. I've seen the title, it just says trailer, which is what a semi-trailer would also be listed.
But would a camper trailer be I mean, that's what I'm trying to determine here is I hear us saying if it's titled as such, registered as such, then we could call it a recreational vehicle. I'm trying to understand because the applicant is saying that isn't exactly a classification. I'm trying to understand if this was the other type, what that would look like for comparison so that we can determine if that were to happen and we were to get those documents, what that would look like. To me, it's a little unclear that it would look different than that camper trailer. So that's where I'm trying to get to is understanding what that looks like to compare it to what this situation is. Because to be honest with you, I'm understanding that, you know, there's a conversion, that it's not atypical, and I'm looking at these definitions, freight trailer. It doesn't, to me, by the description of the applicant, it doesn't seem like it's a freight trailer. Now, we're not quite certain if it's completely a camper trailer either, but I'm trying to get to, you know, what I don't want is a situation where if we legitimately have, you know, some sort of trailer that is converted, that just because it's not sold as that initially, that we're not allowing kind of, you know, the creativity of all kinds of things, just like when we've talked about tiny homes and other things. So if it truly, you know, if there isn't a different classification, I don't want to ask someone to bring forward proof of a classification that doesn't exist, I guess is what it is. That would seem a little unfair. So that's what I'm trying to get at is what those classifications, what does it have to be registered as? And if there's not an RV classification and it's just a trailer, is that still fine as long as it is intended for that use? Which, again, I understand that there's some contention on whether that is or not. But if he were to produce a registration for a trailer and, you know, as such, is that the same as what a typical camper trailer would be registered as, and would that be adequate?
I'm not sure if the registration would say something different. So what I'm asking for is, this is a semi-trailer. He purchased it. It was a mobile command center, a utility trailer. He would go through the steps to do the conversion through the state process, and that would be proof through us, those documents that he submitted, that he went through that conversion process for it to be recognized as a recreational vehicle and not a semi-trailer.
And commissioners, there's a lot that goes into that, and that's why we're looking for the proof. I mean, there's also weight ratings. How much does this vehicle weigh? Does that meet the weight? So I don't know all of the intricacies that go into getting it classified and licensed as a recreational vehicle, but you can't have a vehicle, there's weight limits as well in the code about vehicles and how that all goes into play. And so I guess, you know, we're looking for the information, right? We need him to show us that it is licensed as a recreational vehicle and that he's gone through that state process. I don't know if we can tell you all of the steps that go into that. If this vehicle can be licensed as a recreational vehicle, it may weigh too much. It may not meet size qualifications. But again, that's where we don't have all of that detailed expertise. We're looking for the information for him to provide us the information that he's gone through that process. And that's the piece that we're looking for.
Commissioner Geithner, did that answer your questions?
That's very helpful. That's very helpful for me. Yes.
I'm going to pull that string a little bit and ask, it sounds like the appellant is maybe the most knowledgeable about that conversion, that legal conversion process at this point, but anybody who is able to answer this can. And quite frankly, maybe we could phone a friend in our clerk and recorder here during a break. But I would like to figure out whether I've kind of just put this together based on what's been said, Mr. Baird. It would require you to get a VIN verification, a weight, and an inspection of at least 4 of the points that would make it a habitable recreational vehicle. Does that sound correct? That you would have to get those 3 things done before it could be registered?
If it's a multi-purpose trailer, and I don't know if they gave me the right information when I called them. They said if it's a coach trailer, I don't need a weight slip. that doesn't really make sense to me, so I don't know if that's accurate. But for the most part, yeah, it would be a VIN verification, my statement of fact, and the statement that this is not used for commercial purposes and it's a recreational vehicle, and I've already submitted both of those documents to code enforcement.
Okay, thank you. And we have a slide up listing the forms as well. Okay. Any further comments? Commissioner Geithner.
Okay, so I really appreciate this slide being up. So a statement of fact must be completed by the applicant using the modifications completed on vehicle. So we saw that. Is that what he presented today? Is that what that is referring to?
That is correct, but it's not me that he needs to submit that to.
Yeah, the statement of fact and the verification of vehicle identification number have not yet been proven or accepted by the Department of Motor Vehicles. And that's where we are being stopped in our decision, in that I think that he needs to take the steps within so many months, and we can certainly facilitate that because we have supervisors at the DMV that can help him do that and see if this can actually be turned into the classification of a recreational vehicle or something that can sit on his property. But we don't have the knowledge or the ability to do that because the Department of Motor Vehicles is under the governor's office. We have, obviously, the clerk and recorder runs it. So, and this is Commissioner Williams, I'm sorry, Mr. Baird. My thought process on this is to give this gentleman a chance to, several weeks, and to work with our staff to make an appointment with the DMV to attempt to get this registered. But I am not, my other thought is the commercial dishwasher needs to go. And I don't know how, that would just have to be, sometimes I have to divert here with a small story where my nephew tried to convert a school bus into a motorhome in Virginia and ran up against all of these problems that we're hearing from this gentleman. And sometimes that happens, and that's not a responsibility that we can take to compensate him for that dishwasher. It needs to go. I don't think it belongs in the neighborhood at all, and that would be my opinion.
Commissioner Geithner.
So I agree. It sounds like if we could help, I'm going to tell you, it's very frustrating to me, and this is an experience I have as an elected official, and so as a citizen, I can understand that working through the bureaucracy and red tape, and not specifically through planning, but in this case, the DMV, for an unusual situation. And I have talked to many people in our community, good people, who are navigating bureaucracy. And so I do have some sympathy for that. I understand that, there's been a history of medical conditions. I do think we need to get this together. And so this is an opportunity for us to kind of set a time period to the applicant, in my mind, to get that done, to Commissioner Williams' point, so that we can figure this piece out. I think there is still very much potentially a path for that, but we do need to set a time frame to be able to get that done. So I agree with that. It is always difficult for me in these situations because, again, I'm hearing from an applicant who is saying he has medical concerns, he's had surgeries. I can't even imagine trying to recover from a back surgery, being out of work, and all of those things. And whatever the dishwasher situation is, I think there's a case to be made. It's not rubbish. If there's value to it and he's working on it, now it may be visually, again, not appealing to the neighbors. And so that's why I asked the questions about if we could move that instead of just calling it the rubbish. I would prefer to work with the citizen and say, can we get this moved to a place where it is not going to be the subject of whether we are arbitrating that. And so maybe we could I'll defer obviously to our attorney on this, but could we, in that time frame of getting this paperwork and process done, also say, can we set a framework where we're allowing this individual to move that before we move forward on the litigation, which I think we have done in some situations. But it is apparent to me that there has been some work done and that these two remaining items are a bit complicated, though it may have lagged for a long period of time, which I understand, and this is the appropriate mechanism to set a timeline a little more firmly here to both make everyone aware of the situation and hopefully our applicant gets the compassion of for some of the circumstances, and yet also has a deadline to work towards.
And commissioners, you know, and I know you understand this, we are just working through the process that's set in code. We've been working with this gentleman for a year, and we have just not seen eye to eye on how to rectify this. My only concern now is trying to move the commercial dishwasher. It is large, and I would assume that fence panels would have to come down in order to put that in the backyard. If a neighbor calls and complains because they can see it from their home, we will be back in this situation again. And so it's easy to move smaller treasures to the backyard where they would be screened from view. This is a large piece of equipment. And so while I understand he may be able to move it to the backyard, please know that even though code enforcement may not be able to see it from the street, if one of those adjacent neighbors calls in and they say, hey, we can see this from our home, we can see the top of it from the public right of way. Now we're back in that position of how do we address the concern of the code enforcement violations being called in. I don't know if that will happen, but because of the size of this is something that I could see as being continual, and we are absolutely happy to work with him however you direct us. I just don't want to get into that loop of continuing to have that violation. So we'll work with him if that's your direction.
And if I could also make a comment on that. The commercial dishwasher, I could not get it on the trailer. If I left it on the trailer, it would not fit through the fence. But off the trailer, if I put it on some other wheels, it's actually a very narrow device. It's very wide, but it would, I have 6 feet from my house to the fence, and it's about roughly 2 feet wide. It's actually very narrow. I actually do know who called code enforcement, the anonymous complainer. I'm not going to get into that really, but it wouldn't be visible from their house.
I'm going to make a quick comment on what we've heard about the dishwasher. I see in some of the backup materials and conversations back and forth, and I think you indicated it again today, that you do have intention of one way or another, whether it's donating or assessing and pricing and trying to sell on a secondhand market. You do have the intention of doing that. And I think Commissioner Geithner brought up a very good point that perhaps there's a way to, to give you a real and very serious deadline on doing that, but to give you compassion and ability to have the options to do with your private property, in this case, a material item of a dishwasher, have the ability to get rid of that as you would see fit, if we can give you a deadline on performing that. That would be my preference on the dishwasher. I think that, I'm basing that on what I've heard the appellant say himself, that that's his intention.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm understanding exactly what you're talking about. This is my dilemma. When we need to make sure that we have health and safety of our communities. At the same point, I look at things, to be very honest, in our code, things when we talk about not being able to work on vehicles and open without enclosures, we're making it impossible for people who are poor to be able to live and do things, because it's preferable for everything to be visually appealing and nice, and I understand the desire for that. But growing up in a situation where we certainly did not have more space to put anything under cover, and we worked on vehicles outside, and that was what you did to survive, that is my concern here. Are we putting into place things that have no compassion for people who are struggling in their lives? And I can only take this applicant at his word that he decided to do some things to try and create a financial situation that was better than himself. And anytime government is preventing people from trying, I get very concerned. You can, I'm sure, see in my voice, this is true compassion for these individuals. I know that's not always convenient for people around them. And I know that it's not always appealing and visually appealing to people around them, but I'm very, very concerned about how these things affect people who are in financial situations, who are just trying to do the best that they can. However, again, I'm not sure I would agree that it's rubbish based on the individual's statement there, but I can still see the concerns, potential maybe safety concerns, though I really would say that if my kids are climbing on someone else's property in their front yard, they're trespassing. So that's a whole other scenario. And in the interest of private property rights, I agree with Commissioner Bremer. I would like to put a deadline. I would like to see these things worked toward. I would be willing, even though, to say if it gets in the backyard, I would not call it rubbish. And I don't know how we can really put that into an agreement here. But I think it is on the line of, again, someone's trash, another person's treasure. I would certainly hate if there was a project I was working on. I'm known to love a good DIY project. If I had a dresser that I'm painting, I've done it in my driveway. And luckily my neighbors have not, tried to complain, or I don't leave it out there for days at a time. That is true as well. But if I were working on a project in my backyard, whether someone else saw it that way or not, that is my concern in this situation, that there is clearly a balance. This is very subjective based on opinions, and to be fair, to say, hey, maybe some people see it as rubbish. I think it's questionable in this situation, but if we were to move it to a backyard situation where it is less conspicuous, I would say that should be sufficient. And whether he wants to do that or sell it and completely move it from the front yard, either way, that's to me up to the applicant. But I think that leaving both of those on the table, and our attorney may be able to advise us on whether we can.
And is that the dishwasher you're talking about?
That's the dishwasher.
Okay,
the trailer,
thank you.
I think we have a process that he needs to go through, that we need to set a time period on. So.
And I just have one more comment.
Commissioner Williams.
I think on the working on vehicles, I am always okay with people working on vehicles in their own yards and driveways, as long as any hazardous materials are disposed of correctly. And I think that is really, in my mind, that's always been the purpose behind the statute, is to not prevent people from working on their own personal stuff in their yard, but to protect the environment and not be sending oil or gas down into the ground. So that's just my opinion. I wanted to make that distinction here. Thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
No, thank you, Madam Chair. So a couple of people mentioned deadlines. So were people deadlines, thinking 60 days, 90 days? I mean, what kind of thought process is going on with Commissioner Geithner and Commissioner Bremer? You both mentioned that.
That was part of the reason I asked the question I did earlier. What did I think was reasonable? And that's also why I kind of pulled the strings of what exactly needs to be done to reclassify or register the vehicle. So that's not entirely clear to me, but I know what this board has done before is denied the appeal, but not authorized the litigation for a certain amount of time. I think that we're heading straight into winter. I think that I've heard the appellant say he would like to have as a consideration point for disposing of these things or getting rid of them, an opportunity to donate in next tax year. So I think you're looking at least 60 days. But then I mean, we're in a Colorado winter, and we've come across this before where we set a deadline and there were other absolutely unavoidable extenuating circumstances. So my thought would be, probably not shorter than 90 days. And hopefully we'll have some Colorado sunshine for some of these things to get done. We're also asking someone to do things that require a lot of outside work, regardless of how you slice it.
I have a comment. I would probably go for 6 months, and I would say to Mr. Baird, the scariest thing is to have someone knock on your door and say, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. But we have some of what I consider the best employees in the state. And I would encourage you to rely on the contacts that Ms. Madden can give you. We can get you in touch with a supervisor at the Department of Motor Vehicles who can, every time you walk in, walk you through the process. I know it can be very, very, very frustrating when you have an unusual vehicle that you have to go in and register. The last place you ever want to set foot in could be the Department of Motor Vehicles. But if we were to give them 6 months and just please know that we truly are, we expect our employees to obey by the rules, which is to not enter your property without permission. And so they did. But they are really trying to help you resolve this problem. And so I would just encourage you to allow them to help you in this situation so that we can get this resolved, so that if this works out, then we can tell other people that you actually were able to do this, to turn a semi-trailer into some kind of recreational vehicle. I want to give you the chance to do that.
Commissioner Geithner.
Okay, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Oh.
I was
Did
just
you-
saying I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Commissioner Geithner.
I was just going to ask the applicant, how much time do you feel like you need if you were to truly work diligently on this? What is the amount of time that you feel that you could resolve these items?
Well, it would depend on the weather with the Hobart unit. If it's snowing, it's probably going to be harder to work on that. So a lot of it would depend on the weather. Probably like springtime when it starts, getting warm and I'm not dealing on like freezing my hands off, stuff like that. Then, I mean, that definitely would be an easier time to work on it. But yeah, just when it hasn't been frozen for days at a time, because then it's hard to heat the thing up so that I can even clean it or take the electronics out of it, test that stuff. So I don't know. That is a good point. I didn't really think about that, but it does get kind of treacherous here during the winter.
I think at this point, I hear kind of a sentiment of direction of a motion. I think at this point, we're trying to figure out what is reasonable to provide a real deadline with some real teeth in it that would that at that point we wouldn't. There would be no more grace period after that. So I think that's what we're trying to figure out at this point. I've heard a few things. I've heard late spring, so like May, or would you say 6 months?
I would
So-
say 6 months, but if we gave him through the summer, you might want to say August 31st.
And I've also heard, I personally think that's a little too long.
Okay.
And keeping in mind, this remains an open case, on staff's workload and plate. And so I'd like to I'd like to keep that piece of it in mind as well. And I am seeing an indication for about 4 months. I think that's reasonable. That puts us into late March or early April. If someone wants to throw out a date, or I can look at our county attorney's office and see if you need a very specific date, or if you want, how do we, what's kind of a standard way to do this?
Madam Chair, thank you. Lori Sego, Senior Assistant County Attorney. A couple of notes. I think the board has a couple of choices when considering how to give direction to staff. What I've seen done in the past is that the board gives the appellant a deadline by which to complete certain specified tasks in order to come into compliance. And if that deadline's not met, then the county attorney's office has given direction or given authority to file litigation without having to come back to the board. In the alternative, if you want to see this again, I think you have the ability to schedule a date for an update and to provide further direction at that time. I would, in either instance, recommend that you be very clear, both for the benefit of staff and the appellant, as to what needs to be done in order to bring this property into compliance.
Okay, and in the case of that second option, is that technically a continuance from us today?
I would say you can continue it if you like. You can also take a motion approving or denying the appeal with direction to set a further date for review on progress.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Madam Chair, on the terms of what I think we should be voting on, I trust staff. So what I would like, this is in District 4, what I would like to do is make a motion and then the determination on the date. My request, because I do trust staff, would be to, and I'm just verbalizing this, not making the motion yet, to, as you mentioned earlier, deny the appeal with a deadline to have the corrections made by that date. And that date, in my mind right now, perhaps is how many months in March? 31st of March. Otherwise, I would have just said 120 days, but okay, maybe 31st of March. I don't think this needs to come back to us. I have faith in our staff, and if we deny it and say it must be in compliance by March 31st, that is the appropriate guidance. Now, if somebody wants to be hands-on, micromanage this, okay, then I guess we'll make a different motion, but I don't think we should.
Well said.
And I'm fine with that too. I do want to make sure, given the complexities of the DMV, the only thing that I would say would be to reserve staff's ability to evaluate that process. And if there truly is a DMV hangup, and I just literally went through this with a friend of mine who had a situation that they just could not resolve, and in good faith, in the best way that they were trying, but it was a very long process. So I would just want to reserve the ability, based on staff's judgment, that if there is a hang up with the DMV and the state, because that, again, that can be a very difficult process, that they would have the ability to extend that if staff feels like that is truly a necessity.
And I think staff would tell us that if before that deadline, if they needed it, and I'm sure this board would be willing to do that.
So to clarify your motion, do you want to do that in your own words, or would you like me to?
I'll make the motion. So I move, again, and I appreciate, let's continue the discussion. I appreciate the applicant. I did like the fact that I did see photos where he did go in, he got to get rid of the weeds. There was some work there. I understand the health issues. For me, the one aspect that I didn't even think applied was whether this was being utilized for storage. It sounded, with my follow-on questions, even if it wasn't used for storage, the fact it was not classified properly as an RV is what was really the holdup, and so that needs to be fixed. And we don't like government, we state this and that, but if I build a perfectly perfect house on a plot of land, the government could still make me destroy that if I don't have it certified by somebody that says, oh, it's safe, it's perfect. And it could be perfect, but until you get that, I forgot what the document is, that says a certificate of occupancy, until you have that, somebody could tell you to tear it down, right? But as soon as you get that, it's classified properly. And so I think almost 4.5 months is more than enough time to make that happen. And the same thing with the issues related to the dishwasher. And so my motion will be to, again, we're going to give you the time. I do feel we're helping and working with the applicant here. So, but I move to deny the appeal, but to defer.
But to not authorize litigation any earlier than April
March
1st.
Than April 1st of 2024.
And this is Commissioner Williams. I will second that. What I would ask is that you work with the clerk and recorder's office today to get a contact of a supervisor so that Mr. Baird has a name and phone number. The supervisor can call him within the week, and let's get this going so he has any idea, because that's going to be the hardest part, I think, is getting this vehicle registered. And so I'm seconding it, just saying my preferences there. Thank you.
Any other comments? Commissioner Geithner?
Thank you. I just, a couple of comments, both to the applicant. I mean, I would just encourage you to work as quickly as possible as you can through that process. Again, I think you made a case that there was value to that item, but it's obvious that it is a source of neighborly contention. So I would just, recommend, and I know that you have your, your health concerns and issues, and that is a detriment, but to work through that as quickly as possible. We want to give you the time necessary, but we would just encourage you, I would encourage you to work diligently at that so that we can resolve it as quickly as possible. I want to thank staff. I know that it's, we have these rules, and you're tasked with interpreting them, and it is often difficult. And in a lot of ways, sometimes this hearing is a pivotal point for our applicant as well. So I just want to say I appreciate your work on this. I know that you wanted to work diligently with this applicant as well. We're glad that this can be hopefully a point of still having that spirit of working with the applicant, but also setting a more serious deadline to be able to move this forward for our community. And so I am supportive of the motion as well.
Well said. I think this has been a thorough and robust conversation today. And I think that I just want to clarify, should we vote on the current motion and it to pass, I wanted to clarify with Mr. Baird we're basically giving you a grace period and a runway to get the things done. And so I think that you have full intention to, and you sound like a very responsible individual, and I hope that you're able to do those things. But the litigation would still continue at the end of this, if you were to not be able to make some progress towards them. And then I also, that also means that it is a deny of the appeal, but that only for a certain set amount of time. So, okay, with that, I will call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 4-0 with Commissioner Vanderwerf excused. Item number 9.
Item number 9 is department and committee reports and non-action items, and there are none.
Item 10.
Item number 10 is the addendum, and there is no addendum.
Item 11.
Item number 11 is the executive session, and there is no request for an executive session.
We are adjourned.
unknown participant is now exiting.